And when we're using natural remedies temperately, we should have little to no side effects. And I'll give you another example here. Most commonly used prescription for high cholesterol in most of the Western world are drugs known as statins. And these statins help to reduce cholesterol. It has nothing to do with what you eat. By the way, the best way to reduce cholesterol is not to eat cholesterol. You still will produce your own, don't worry. And if you produce too much, well, maybe exercise needs to be put into place where you can help to get rid of some of that. There's some other natural remedies that are helpful with cholesterol. We can talk about those later. But back to my comparison, statins are notoriously ridden with side effects. I believe it was a British Medical Journal or the Lancet I think it was the late 80s or early 90s, published a study that compared the effects of, I think the most powerful statin they had at that time, and activated charcoal. And they wanted to see its effect on cholesterol levels. What they found was that the statin, yes, it lowered cholesterol, but there are a lot of side effects, as we know. But in 1 month's time, the charcoal, it was taken 3 times a day in, I believe, divided doses of quite a bit of charcoal. They took 3 tablespoons. I wouldn't recommend that much. I think they overdid it. Could cause some constipation there. But even maybe a couple teaspoons a day would probably be sufficient to bring about this result, because charcoal is such a massive adsorber. Had 1 cubic inch, I believe, or 1 cubic centimeter, one of the two, has the adsorption area, so amount of area that can adsorb to the carbon, and carbon bonds will bind to a lot of toxins, of a football field. So you don't need a whole lot of charcoal to get a huge effect, a beneficial effect. Well, anyway, they compared these two, and they found that the charcoal lowered cholesterol. I believe it's about 40% reduction in LDL cholesterol, boosted HDL cholesterol by about 8%. The statin couldn't keep up. It had some effect, but not that quickly. Now, some of the megastatins, they've redefined the formulations. They can do that, but then they also have much more severe side effects. Well, the article went on to say the side effects from the charcoal group were negligible. I mean, maybe someone dirtied their sink, or stained their clothes, maybe a little bit of constipation, or just drink more water, But that's a perfect example of the fact that there are remedies that we can go to, that God has placed healing properties. Now, he's the one that heals, but he can use tools. He can use our hands. He can use the surgeon's hands. He can use the medicinal properties in the herb also to bring about healing.